Haha, that looks really cute.
Oh, I love it!
Welcome to the Photography Podcast with your host, Mike Cassidy.
Hey, how are you, everybody? My name is Mike Cassidy, and I'm a boudoir photographer from New Jersey, and this is my show. What I do is talk with people who are just starting out on their photography voyages, as well as established pros, to learn about the hurdles they've had to overcome to get their businesses going. I'm looking to bring you personal stories which will help you connect to the fact that you're not alone in your struggles. Along the way, we'll probably have a few laughs, but the goal is to get you some actionable advice to help your business grow. So stay tuned. You never know what you may learn. Oh, hello. How are you? My name is Michael, and I am your neighbor. It's December, and you're in the photography business, you're probably fairly busy. I had a very busy November, busy December, and working on a lot of sessions, doing a lot of editing, getting a lot of Christmas photo albums together, and it's a busy time. And inevitably, you know, you haven't missed a Christmas yet, and I'm not going to start this year, and you're always like seemingly chasing down one or two people to the very bitter end, and they're not answering your text messages or emails, and they're just going on oblivious that if they don't do what they need to do at that moment, their Christmas gifts are going to be late. And so it can be stressful, but it's a lot of fun to do. And it's a lot of fun to know you're giving these people these great gifts, and it's going to give them a lot of happiness and joy through the year. So in the end, all that hard work is well worth it. But it's nice to take a break tonight to work on the podcast a little bit. I haven't had too much time to do it lately, and hopefully we'll be back on track a little bit, and I have a bunch of episodes I want to start releasing, and probably not till after Christmas or January. I don't know exactly yet what my schedule is going to be, whether it's going to be every 2 weeks or once a month. I'm going to sort of take that a little bit day by day and see how that goes, how it works for me, and what the response to everybody listening. So far, it's been very positive, so we're going to keep on working on this for a while. And so tonight, we have a real great, super smart woman, Quianna, from Quianna Marie Photography, and we had a great chat a couple of weeks ago. And not only is she a boudoir photographer, she is a wedding photographer and all other types of photography that she does, and she's doing a really great job. And the one thing about her is that she really separates herself by focusing on experiences. You know, she offers a lot more than just a photo, you know, and she's got it figured out in that respect, which in turn helps her earn more money, brings her more business. So this is definitely an episode you want to stick around and listen to her. We talk for maybe, 50 minutes or an hour. And there's a lot of good information in here for people to listen to. So I learned some stuff. Hopefully you'll learn some things. And so stick around and listen. And, I'll stop talking now and probably be back after the New Year's, January sometime. So happy holidays. And here's the episode with Quianna. Okay, so you are on. You are live. You ready to go?
I'm ready.
Okay. I am with Quianna Sanchez today from Quianna Marie Photography. So, Quianna, take a moment to introduce yourself to everybody.
Good morning. Thank you so much. So I'm Quianna, and I am a destination wedding and boudoir photographer, educator, motivator, all the things. I am just obsessed with turning your passions into profits and really taking your business to the next level without losing sight of why you got started and why you fell in love with your craft in the first place. So I'm actually based in two places and two locations at this time. I am serving the Bay Area, so the San Francisco Bay Area in California, as well as expanding to the Scottsdale, Phoenix area in Arizona. I am expanding. I have big, big dreams. However, I am also a destination photographer. So anywhere you want to take me, I'm ready for the ride. So I'm excited.
How far is that apart? Like how far is going back and forth from, I say I'm on the East Coast. Is that, so you're doing a lot of driving or a lot of flying?
It'll be a lot of flying. So the flight itself is only about an hour and 45 minutes. It's less than 2 hours. But if you follow the traffic in California, it's sometimes I can go back and forth.
2.5 days. You could walk faster than you can drive.
Exactly. Yeah.
And I was looking at your website a little bit, and you look very busy. Just from even looking at your website, you look like you're very busy. Like I said, we'll get in. You're involved in the education part of it, the photography part of it. So it looks like you have a lot going on. So we're going to try to touch a little bit about each of those topics. But first, what I want to do is go back in time a little bit. I like to talk to everybody about how they started, what was the genesis of the idea, and then sort of what came first, the wedding part of it or your boudoir part of it. So let's go back in time, Quianna. Let's go back just for a moment. Here we go. We're traveling back in time.
Ooh, I love it. I love this. We're setting a vibe.
What was the genesis, or what was your inspiration when you first started to get into photography?
Yeah. So when I first started, my goal was to be your family photographer. So I wanted to encompass everything. I just had a love for people. I had a love for milestones and connections. So I just shot everything. So in a perfect world, and like my perfect ideal client would be engagement sessions, weddings, including boudoir. And then, of course, comes the baby bump next. And I would shoot everything. I would shoot baptisms. I'd shoot first birthday cake smashes. I did it all. And it wasn't until I started, like after I graduated from San Jose State and I started really pursuing this, a lot of the education out there for photographers really pushed specialization. It was, if you're going to be good at one thing in photography, you need to be the best, and you need to drop newborn photography. You need to drop all these other things, and you need to focus on one specific niche. And I had a really hard time with that because I liked everything. And so what I started to do was I started to push towards more weddings because that's where my heart just felt like I was pulled to be. And so then encompassing the wedding portion, that's when I really honed in on engagement shoots, boudoir photography, and kind of maintaining these clients. So once they do become a wedding client for me, or, they're part of the Quianna Marie couples and they become Quianna Marie brides.
You moved them through your funnel from one group to the next group to the next group. Yeah.
Yes. And then what was awesome too is I started noticing that with these weddings, because I had put so much effort into kind of doing all the things, like hashtag everything, I started attracting bridesmaids that would soon become brides. And I started attracting flower girls that I would see at my mini sessions. And so it all kind of, like you said, it funneled into just this kind of like wedding tribe is the best way to describe it.
So the wedding part really, I guess, started to come first or
yes.
And so I guess you were just advertising for weddings, or did someone come to you and say, hey, we're getting married. You mind coming over and photographing my wedding this weekend? Or was it really a concerted effort to go out there and start marketing to that group?
It happened pretty naturally. And to be perfectly honest, my brother actually, it sounds ridiculous, but he was like my biggest pimp for finding me weddings. So all of his friends were starting to get married off, and he would tell his buddies like, oh, just trust me. My sister takes really good pictures. And at first it was kind of like, okay, Mike, yep. Yep. But soon they started seeing that I would show up and I would be so passionate about my work and helping with their days, and not just being a photographer, but being like an honorary bridesmaid and helping with so much more than just actually snapping photos. And quickly, that's how it grew, where it was just like word of mouth. And it was friends of friends. And so to this date, my brother has actually been in the most weddings I photographed, and he has brought the most weddings to date. It's crazy.
Now, I guess in this case, because it probably came through your brother, but do you remember the first wedding you photographed? Was it a disaster, or how did that go? Do you remember that?
No, absolutely. The very, very first wedding I photographed, I was a second shooter, and that's when I got a taste of it. And I thought, oh my God, I cannot believe that this could be my life. Like this could be my job. And so that triggered everything. I was just kind of like being a helper and like second shooter before second shooters were even really a thing back then. And then it wasn't until I did my very first wedding, and there was like an Uncle Bob situation where it was a family friend of ours. It was actually my brother was the best man in this wedding. And he, the Uncle Bob person, he was just like kind of helping, like he wasn't like contracted to be there or anything like that. He was just helping and
giving you a hand.
Yes. And then I was there as well. So I think I was just trying to push it and just trying to like conquer the whole day and take care of everything. And just, I mean, I knew nothing back then. Like I knew
nothing. But you made it through. Somehow you made it through.
We did. But yeah, it was definitely an experience that I'll never forget. But I mean, even today, some of those images are some of my favorite images.
Really? Yeah. And it's, and when you were talking a little bit earlier about being a generalist when it comes to photography, I think, people, and my work is mostly all boudoir. And once in a while, I'll have women that come in and say, oh, would you photograph my wedding? You did. And I'm like, I don't want to go near a wedding. I don't know anything about it. It seems like there's a certain, like in boudoir, there's a certain core group of photos. It seems like in weddings, there's got to be a certain core group of photos that brides expect you to do. And unless you know those, you could be missing out on something. And then there's no going back to go back to get those shots. So did you do a lot of homework or do a lot of research to say, ooh, we have to do this, we have to do this, we have to do this shot? Or did you just go in there and kind of like see what happens?
Yeah. So when I first started, it was just, to me, it was a matter of covering everything. So it sounds kind of sick to think of it this way, but I was almost like a forensic photographer. Like that's how
every 800,000 photos you were taking of just everything. Yeah.
I just shooting everything. And then, but to me personally, and this is why I was so drawn to photography in general, was because I am just such a sucker for milestone, and I like milestones. And I am just like a hopeless romantic. I love love. And so just having the camera and being able to just capture those moments, that to me was it. And it sounds so cliche and it sounds so cheesy, I know, but it's true. Like I had to be at the right place at the right time. And, but I did do my research. I attended a lot of weddings. I have a huge family, so I've been in a lot of weddings. I understand like the traditions and the flows. That really helped.
So you paid attention. You knew kind of what was going on when you get in there, because that's to me, that's always like a scary business, it would seem, on your first wedding or two, because again, crazy brides, there's so much pressure and people have certain expectations. And if you roll in there and don't do so good, there's going to be a lot of people that are angry at you. And it's not like a business where I guess I don't know if you can practice or not. I don't know if you could do fake weddings to practice these, but you're live. There's not a lot of rehearsal with that. So I imagine that's super stressful for anybody getting started as a wedding photographer, because you're thrown into the fire right from the get go. And I think what you did as being a second shooter, I think that's how you have to do it. To get experience, see what's going on, and then to make that leap. So as you were going in weddings, I guess that business started to grow from referrals. So from that came, I guess you said you were doing engagement photography and maternity photography from those clients?
Yep, exactly. It started from them. And then quickly, people were noticing just my images being up everywhere and wanting to be a part of that, wanting to help either support me, and just, I kind of forced it on a lot of people at first. and then soon people were just reaching out, and it just grew. It just through word of mouth. It really helped
now,
me.
At what point, and this is, I think, something a lot of people go through. At first it's exciting and it's fun and you can't believe you're going out and doing these jobs. But at some point, reality kind of sinks in, and you're sitting home and you're like, wow, I have like 2,000 photos in front of me and this takes me hours and hours and hours. And I got to start getting something from my time doing this. You have bills, rent and mortgages and all kinds of stuff like this. So was there a point, or tell me a little bit about when you were getting involved in this wedding businesses where you start to think a little bit more, I'm really kind of actually pretty good at this. Maybe I can get more, or maybe I can get more here. Is there a time when you start saying, I'm really busy, I'm raising my prices?
Mm-hmm. Oh, yes. And that happened pretty quickly once, because I still had a full-time job. In fact, when I started my business, I was still in school and I had 2 jobs. Plus trying to take photos on the side. Mm-hmm. So at one point I thought, I can't do this. So the moment I realized, okay, like I need to start charging more, was when I was working a full-time job and I couldn't take any more dentist appointments. Like, I'm doing air quotes. I know you can't see me, but I couldn't do any dentist appointments. I couldn't have any more sick days. And it started really interfering with, like, my business was kind of growing like wildfire, and it kind of was interfering with my day-to-day job. Yeah. And to be perfectly honest, and I mean, I'll just talk normals and be really transparent. When I was working my my desk job, I was making, if I was lucky, like $2,000 a month, like $2,500 a month. And I just thought, oh my God, I can charge this in one wedding. Like one wedding would pay 40 hours worth of my time just sitting at a desk that I just didn't feel fulfilled and I didn't feel happy. And so that's when I started making that shift. I'm like, okay, how do I start charging more for this? How do I get more people on the calendar and just kind of like let this actually like turn this hobby into my profession? And there was a turning point where I would just, and it turned into dollar signs. I was like, this is not a hobby anymore. Like, I enjoy this. And if I don't start getting paid for what I do and really getting that return, I'm going to hate it and I'm not going to enjoy it. And so that's when it started like having a little turning point.
Yeah, and that becomes real pressure because then you have to start booking these jobs. And I think that's what a lot of people struggle with. Well, now if I charge more, maybe I'm not going to do as much work. And it's very stressful to make that leap. And I applaud anybody who does that. And not only that, I think the wedding photography business is particularly competitive. I know out in the East Coast it is. Again, I don't know too much about, that's not really my thing. But what is that atmosphere like out there as far as differentiating yourself from the rest of the people trying to compete for that slice of the pie?
Honestly, I don't know if it's just me, but I'm in this bubble where we're just very fortunate to have such an incredible, just like vendor relationships where I have a handful of photographers that I love and trust, and they are, I mean, the purest Webster Dictionary definition of competition. They are my competition, but we get along. We share referrals. We help each other book calendars. There are clients that come along that maybe having a special request, like maybe they've either met me at a wedding or they came from a referral, and they may have a request for more of a dark and moody photographer, or maybe
something that's not quite your style. Yeah.
Yep. And then we refer them. I personally believe, and this is just me maybe living under my rainbow cloud, but I believe the market is what you make of it. So if you find yourself like competing for these leads and just being in a cutthroat environment, personally, I think that's on you. Like, you need a reality check, because there are really nice people out there that do want to help. And special thanks to the Rising Tide Society. I'm not sure if you're familiar with this big movement. And so we believe in community over competition, and it really has set me up for success, knowing that healthy competition is good. Of course, you do want to be the best, and you do need to pay your bills. But at the end of the day, when you lead your business with a full heart and you're excited to share your accomplishments and to share leads and really push each other, we all can charge more. And it's not even about the money, but we can all live the best life and definitely make a difference. Like, it doesn't have to be this cutthroat situation. And I feel like it's definitely like the climate is what you make of it, if that makes sense.
Yeah, that's an interesting situation. I'm not aware of anything like that out here, but you're right. In essence, I guess their philosophy is the rising tide lifts all the boats. So you have a bunch of people sort of working together to get each other business. But I think even still, what you need to do, especially in the wedding business, because there's so many people. And again, I'm not super into that here, but it seems like a very price competitive industry out here. You still find instances of people that are just getting into the business, trying to undercut people, or what's it like? Or do you get approached by brides or couples saying, well, you're charging X, but the other person over here is charging me so much less. If you want to give me your business, then, you're going to charge what they're going to charge. Do you get any of that kind of back and forth from brides?
I do. I would say not so much anymore, since I have been increasing my prices and kind of moving into a little bit more like a luxury market. But it still happens. People still try to find me. And if that's the case, and this is me speaking 10 years in business. If I was 1, 2, 3 years in business, I would I'd be like the Walmart and like price match and all those things. But to be perfectly honest, at this point in time, when that does happen, I just tell them, okay, thank you so much. Like, I wish you the best of luck. Here are other photographers that are maybe in your budget, and I wish them luck. And then I also provide a list of other vendors that I love to work with as well. So at the end of the day, I'm still helping them. But if they're price shopping me, and they are like, wanting to be competitive with their prices, that they're not my client. Like they don't love me for me. They're not looking for an experience that I provide on their wedding day and their entire life. It's more just someone to show up and take photos, and there are other photographers that are well equipped to do that, and I send them their way.
Yeah, that's tough to do. I think at first that's something that comes, I think, with maturity and growing in your niche, because immediately the idea of turning away money or turning away business is really tough for people, and I think they struggle. And I think that's one measure that you've sort of have evolved to this next step, when you can confidently say to someone, thanks, but no thanks. I understand your need, but there may be somebody that maybe better suit your budget and your and what you guys are looking for. And so are you, I guess in your case, you're traveling so much, you have to bundle in this airfare and all this travel time to go from one state to another if you're traveling around. So how does that factor in? Is that part of your prices, or I guess that has to go when someone contacts you? You have to find out what their destination is, and then you're adding that all into the final costs. Yes.
Well, also again, to be totally transparent, this is all very new. 2020 will be my very first year that I am doing like the dual
traveling.
Yes, the dual travel. So I am trying to bundle my stuff. A lot of my leads are still coming from California and Northern California. Napa Valley, Bay Area. And, but I am set up with my pricing where I don't charge an additional fee if you are based in the Bay Area or Arizona. Yeah. If you do need to, hop you on, get me on a plane and take me to, take me to Italy or take me to Mexico and Hawaii, there are definitely travel
and I think people would understand that, if there's a list that you have. And I think that's great, especially in wedding photography, because people, for whatever reason, are drawn to a particular style, and they find somebody's work, and then they'll if it's in their budget to fly, hey, why not go for a free trip, to Europe? So that's interesting, and I think that's another landmark in a career as a wedding photographer, when people start bringing you places to photograph their wedding. I think that's an exciting thing to do. A little bit of traveling probably can get tiring after a while if you're busy. But that's definitely, I think, a mark that you've reached another level when people are wanting you to go halfway around the world with them to capture that moment. Even more stress. I think that would add even more stress to the whole situation with the wedding. So what you mentioned a bit before, you have to differentiate yourself in photography. I think there's so much noise. There's so many people at the bottom, and sometimes you have to start to raise above that. And then the air is a little bit clearer. And you definitely said that at this point you're trying to go a little bit more upmarket and not getting, I don't want you to get too much into the details here, but like, where would you say are like the different strata where you are? Like, what is considered like low, medium, or high? And what differentiates, do you think, the different levels of photographers?
Okay, wait, question. Are you talking about like financially, like pricing for low?
Yeah, I mean, like when just in a brief, like out there, what do you think is like the upper range, and what do you think that, when someone's going for a $10,000 wedding, what really separates that from like a $3,000 wedding? And is it just the quality of the work, or what goes along with making those big jumps in pricing?
Yes, I think, well, I can tell you like stuff for 2 hours talking about this topic. But I think the first thing that comes to mind really boils down to experience, communication, and honestly, your people skills. I feel like this is really important, where I feel like a lot of photographers, and this is me just being totally general and maybe stereotypical, but a lot of photographers hop into this business because they think that, oh gosh, photographers make so much money, I can do this.
It's going to be a quick buck. Yeah.
It's going to be a quick buck. And to be perfectly honest, it's not. It can be very lucrative if your heart and soul is in it. But I think what really sets the like the standard, or maybe like kind of creates those levels of photographers, whether you're charging $2,500 or $10,000, really boils down to experience. Knowing that you can provide consistency in your work. I feel like that is something that's huge. So no matter if you're on a cliff in Yosemite, or if you are in a barn, or if you are in these dark places, it doesn't matter. Like, your work will speak for itself. But at the end of the day, like it's just, I don't know. There's so many things I can say about it. There's so many things, but definitely experience is up there, because
is up there. Mm-hmm. Like, who's your typical person? Like, what would you say is your typical client that comes to you? looking for you to hire you in the wedding business?
For me, it's kind of across the board. So I get young couples in their early 20s all the way up to couples that are in their mid 30s. But for me, honestly, I try to attract couples that they love natural light. They love experiences. And at the end of the day, they might like nice things, but they'd rather invest in experiences. They want to give their, as much as I love Pinterest photos and all the beautiful inspiration that it has for that, my couples really push for creating an experience that their families and that their friends are really going to love, and not just putting on this dramatic show or this broad, this Broadway movie. And that to me is where I can make those connections with families and create that longevity in returning customers and business.
Yeah, it sounds like you're trying to create a very personal experience,
Yes.
in these events, not just the photos, but just sort of, just making a little bit more than that. And I was looking through your photos again before. You do have a very unique style to your photos. It's very attractive. It's really good.
Thank you.
So anybody that's listening definitely should go over on your website and take a little bit of a look at your work, and we'll go to that a little bit more in the future. But yeah. And then how did you transfer or move into boudoir photography? Was that again from the wedding business where you were brides and they wanted to suddenly do a boudoir shoot and you're like, I'll do it?
That's honestly exactly how it happened. So I noticed a calling for some of my brides that wanted to gift this. And okay, so I don't know if you know, so Jessie James Decker, she did a boudoir shoot, and she's just this country artist, singer, and she did one. And as soon as she did that, I had a handful of my girlfriends text me, call me. I mean, they were like, Key, we need to do one of these. Can you please photograph this for us? And so of course I watched her show. It was James and Jess, no, sorry, it wasn't James and Jess. It was, her and her husband had this reality TV show on E. And so we watched the show together and I thought, oh my gosh, I can recreate these. And that's kind of how it started. I took a quick workshop on boudoir photography where I had a beautiful model. And it wasn't too much directed education for these boudoir shoots, but mostly just providing a gorgeous studio florals and the whole experience for boudoir. And so once I photographed those and shared those, that's when it really started picking up. And I started not so much pushing it for my brides, but definitely once I started posting more about it, they got excited and it kind of fell into place there.
Is that something that is part of your bridal packages, or no, that's just separate and people will get that in addition to?
It's separate. And part of the reason why I keep it separate is for the privacy for my brides, because a lot of times they do want to keep it a secret for their fiance. And so they don't even want to see it in the package collections or options. And so it's secret.
Yeah. And that's the one thing about being in the boot. Your whole life is a secret existence. Everything you do is secret emails, secret text messages, secret phone calls. Your whole life is a lie. Yeah. So you're right. Yeah, that's right. So yeah, that makes sense, because when you're looking with your fiance at a wedding, you can't be anything ever about boudoir. It has to be a whole separate existence. So where are you doing your boudoir work? Do you have a studio, or are you doing these in hotel rooms, or do you have a just in your home, or in the clients' homes?
So when I first started, I did start in my home. I started in my bedroom. I'd rip everything out of my room, keep it really simple and clean. And then I would have brides and girls that would book a hotel room. And then when I started what I really started creating was a niche for mini sessions. So I call them petite boudoir shoots. And one of the first one I hosted was, oh my gosh, 5 or 6 years ago. And what I did is I actually rented 2 hotel suites. And so they were right next door. And one would be kind of the holding room for hair and makeup. And we had snacks and champagne and strawberries. And then the next room was, of course, the more private kind of studio room where we took our photos. And then I also have a local studio that I just rent on a daily
when you need it. Mm-hmm.
So beautiful.
The work is very pretty that you do with the brides. And see, I'm more along the lines of doing my photos as that bright and pretty kind of a look. You know, there are some photographers that have that dark and moody black and white, which just isn't my thing. I can't do that very well. But you seem to fall in the category along with the style that I do. And is that sort of just your vision of how boudoir should be, or how did you arrive at that style or that look?
Great question. So I actually prefer a bit more the feminine, light and airy look for a lot of my photography, a lot of my style. But at the same time, too, one of my rules for my style is to be very natural. I am a huge advocate for keeping things really naturally lit, very clean, very bright, because personally, that's how I see it. That's what it, to me that's what it looks like in real life. And I feel like a lot of photographers sometimes get caught up in edits and presets and styles, and
right. It's too much.
It's too much. And for me, I mean, I think it's art, and I think it can be very beautiful, but I am looking for that timeless, classic look. And I feel like going natural, you can never go wrong with that.
Yeah, and I agree with you there. And, there's no right or wrong answer to this. There's no right or wrong best flavor in ice cream. Someone likes strawberry, that's great, or vanilla, that's great. But I think, too, I think we live in a day and age of too much editing and filters and presets. And even though in the moment that may be a great look, it's one of those things that 4 or 5 years from now, you're looking back and you're like, maybe that was a bit too much. And what was I thinking in doing that? So I don't know. Personally, I'm in more line with your style and keeping it simple, keeping it pretty, keeping it natural. And I think that you get more mileage from that. And I think the people seem to like that better too. I think it suits more types of clients than a particular, honing in on a single look. And so, Quianna, if I want to come in with you for a boudoir session, how does that all come down? How are you operating? Do you have multiple packages, or what's the process when I want to come with you and do a session? Are you an album woman? Are you a digital photo woman? How are we doing this?
How does this work? So I offer a couple different options. I do offer a much more affordable option where I'll host those, they call them the petite boudoir sessions. And so that is over less than half a price of the full
regular.
The boudoir thing, which is awesome for my brides specifically. I actually get a lot of my brides on these petite days because they're already spending a buttload of money on their wedding.
Right. Weddings are expensive, yeah. And
a lot of times too, it is a secret, so they can hide about $400 a little bit easier than a $1,200 purchase from their fiance.
Right.
But yeah, and so I like offering them a variety of options, whether they include full glam, full hair and makeup. I have a handful of makeup artists that I love and trust that come in for a discounted rate to really give them that goddess experience and make them feel like a million.
That's important. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Oh yeah. The transformation is incredible. So I definitely encourage that. Eyelashes are life. And then I also offer, albums. So for me personally, everything I do in my business, I try to think of, okay, so when I'm a bride one day, what is it that I'm going to want? So everything around in my business is that way. So for example, everything is super private. Everything is on lockdown. So although it is kind of scary to say yes, your images are online, but I make it clear to say that, they're not shared on social until I have written proof from you. But I do provide an online gallery, and it's set up it's a pixie set gallery. So for those not familiar, it's just kind of like a Pinterest scroll. It looks really beautiful. And then I also offer albums as well. The albums are not included unless I have some type of sale or promotion going on. I'm trying to get these sessions booked, then I will include them. But with the album, I call them little black books. They are designed to be about their 5x7, and they're the leatherette. They're not real leather, but they look like leather. They feel like leather. And I usually have my brides pick about 15 to 20 of their favorite images from the shoot.
Put them in the book.
Mm-hmm. And the reason why I love providing that and being kind of proactive about sharing more about the album is a lot of my couples for weddings, but especially my brides for these boudoir shoots, they can't just take these photos to Costco and print them. They don't know what to do with them. And
right.
So
I agree.
Yeah. So I try to make it as easy and stress-free as possible for getting these high quality prints in their hands.
And not only that, albums, that's where you're going to make your money. I mean, just handing over digital pictures, unless you're charging an arm and a leg for them. And I think in the case of weddings and brides or all events, it's something tangible. You know, it's something that they can physically give to somebody that they can hold on to. And the truth of the matter is, and you'll know this, women look at these albums for years, you know, and I think that's a much better way to do it in prints or in albums instead to hand over a bunch of digitals to somebody. That's me personally. And then what I do want to talk to you with a little bit is something you just brought up a couple of moments ago as far as privacy in the universe of boudoir. Now, although, you know, things have changed over the past 10 years and now women are posting pictures of themselves everywhere, this is still a big concern in that business. So talk a little bit about how you handle that and how it should be handled.
Yes. So I am an advocate for privacy over profits. So at the end of the day, there is nothing that I wouldn't do to make sure, like put my life on the line status to make sure that my couples feel like their images are private. So it starts with the gallery. So once the images are up, I have actually like a two-part password collection, like little portal for them to see. And then I also make it clear too, because a lot of my brides will, like that's one of their biggest fear of even signing up for a boudoir is that privacy factor. So I go above and beyond to make sure that it's locked down. Also too, through Pixie Set, you can actually, so it's not just creating sorry, I'm trying to find my words. So it's not just finding like the password, but it's also like I can link a specific email. So even if you had the specific link,
password.
Yes, if you had this like, you know, Wi-Fi status password, and then, but you need a specific email to even view the images and even be able to download them. So that right away is kind of like an extra lock and key. And then nothing ever gets shared. I give my clients a 2-step process as well for being shared. So maybe before their shoot, they're a little nervous and they're thinking, oh no, absolutely, I cannot have my images shared. No way. You know, my husband will kill me, or that's just, you know, my job doesn't allow it. I don't want to risk it. What I do is I send them through a private email. I send a couple, like 3 to 5 images that I loved from their shoot. And it's usually a face picture where them just smiling, looking happy, or maybe it's a sexy photo of them and their leg or their shoe or a piece of their garter where...
Right. It's anonymous. Super
anonymous. I mean, maybe their best friends can tell it's their ring, but that's about it. And then I make sure that they have that approval after, because I feel like, and that's just general public in general, like you're not going to make a decision until you see something, like until you actually can see it for yourself. And, but yeah, so that's something I do. And then half the time they're like, or more than half the time, they're like, oh yeah, I love these. This was so empowering. I want the world to see this. I want all my girlfriends to do it. I'll share it. I'm happy to promote you. Like I had such a great time, and their tune kind of changes. So that's part of the
yeah, and it has changed, and I remember even back that you couldn't tell, it was under lock and key. There were non-disclosure agreements. It was so, you know, to do this was scandalous, and the idea of seeing a woman in a bra was like earth-shattering. And I think, you know, the times have just changed a little bit, and it's not as earth-shattering as it used to be. But right, there are certain people who may be teachers or other jobs where really those photos, they don't want to be out into the public. So protecting their privacy is super important at the steps along the way. And there's lots of points of failure, like you said, and you can only do what you can do once those photos are in somebody else's hands. You can't control what they do with them. But the important thing is to know, and I know this has happened to me, you know, with just photos I've posted online, they wind up all over the place. Once you put something online, it gets copied, like you said, and I have photos that I took, 10 years ago of these people with tattoos that got onto Pinterest and got copied. And you know how people make memes out of them. They put words, literally thousands and thousands and thousands of times. I found them on South American company websites. I found them all over the, you know, photos go everywhere. And so, yeah, you really have to take, I think, those steps to make sure that these people are aware that that's great. And a lot of people will volunteer photos, like you said, because they're very excited about them. But as soon as those go on your website, you never know where they're going to wind up around the universe. So it's important, I think, to make the people aware before you do that, this is what may happen. It's just not going to be on my website. Someone's going to screenshot it, or if you put it on your Instagram, people like repost them. And, you're right. There's a lot of women who are happy to share that because they're excited about their images, and you just have to ask first. You have to get that permission first. And I think anybody who's in boudoir has to have a good model release. And, but you're working with models to do sample photos at all, or are most of them coming from your clients now, the ones that you display?
Yeah. So the first one definitely was through a model for that quick little like mini workshop that I did. But a lot of them are my cousins and friends that recently got married, that they're like, we just want to support you. Like, I have no problem. So they're happy.
Yeah. And that's all. Yeah. And a lot of people, like you said, now it's, I do the same thing when I'm done with some clients. I would ask them, hey, this is a really cute photo. Can we share it? And they're like, yeah, of course you can. So you don't get that much resistance. There's some people I don't ask just because I know from their jobs that it's not even worth my time. Teachers and doctors and stuff like that, whatever, don't want to share their photos. But I think that is, I'm a user of Pixieset as well. And, they have their password on there, and also those galleries can be timed out. It's not a promotion for Pixieset. I'm not getting paid by Pixieset, but you could set those galleries to self-destruct after a while, which is important, and the photos are just gone. And then also, I think what's important too is even after all that's done, to inform clients about your long-term storage options. So do you keep your clients' photos on your PC or laptop afterwards, or what do you do with them once they're all done?
Yes. So I do store them online. So I have like, I keep them forever on Pixieset, just because once again, I'm crazy. And for me, it's, when I go through this process for a wedding day, one day, I'm like, I want to have access to these. So I don't ever tell my clients that they get lifetime coverage or lifetime stuff. It's up for a year after their wedding, but they never actually disappear. And I keep them up there for a reason, because I do offer annual promotions, annual sales, where they can go in and they can order prints. Pixieset has it all
after the fact.
Yes. But I archive a lot. I have like tons of external hard drives, and then I like kind of put stuff in the cloud as well. I just can't fathom like having images and then deleting them. Like, I don't know. It's just weird. Like, I can't.
Well, there's two points of view there. And again, it's not a right or a wrong type of an answer, because some people are so wary about them falling into the wrong hands. They'll tell people, I'll keep them for 6 months, and then after that, I'm just deleting them. One, because it's a lot of money to store photos. It's a lot of maintenance. It's work to do and to maintain, and hardware and so forth. So they just don't either have the money or the time or the knowledge to go in to do that. And then also there's also the responsibility, I think, part of it, where those can be loitering on a hard drive somewhere at home. And then in this day and age of computer viruses too, it may be no fault of your own. You can get something on there, and indiscriminately somehow people could be taking those photos from your computer. So I think there's, I got into the habit of encrypting everything. Once my projects are done, those photos all get encrypted, and I do store them. I'm one of those people, again, who store them for God knows how long, and everything is encrypted and backed up on hard drives in my PC, and that's how I deal with it. And I do that just because from every time to time, like it just happened literally a month or so ago, a woman contacted me like 4 years ago. She had some kind of a flood. I don't know how a flood affected her computer, but she lost all her images, and she wanted to get a copy of her pictures from, back in her session. So that's where that comes in useful, I think, in hanging on to them just in case. It doesn't happen all that often, but you can have them just in case somebody comes to you and needs to, if a house burns and they lost their album or something like that, you can help them out in that situation. So that's what I do.
Yeah.
And you also mentioned that you do a lot of boudoir parties. You think you're an advocate of that more so than the individual sessions, or is it just really up to the preference of the person?
Well, good question. I do love doing the like the individual boudoirs, and but I've just noticed from a financial, like a business standpoint, it makes a lot more sense for me to do the petite boudoir sessions, like literally mini marathon days, because then I have just one cost of the studio day. Sidebar, one tip I've just been totally tapping into is I've been reaching out to wedding venues to host boudoir shoots. And they have been loving that, because I could host a boudoir session, like on a Tuesday morning, for example, when the venue is typically
closed.
Yes, closed or just sleeping. And then of course the venue likes to promote those photos as well, with, of course, permission of the bride, for getting ready rooms and stuff like that. So side story, commercial break on that one. Yeah.
No, that's interesting. And I would have never thought about that. So you're going to local venues and then using their facilities to bring multiple brides in there to do their sessions right in that building.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, that's interesting. Yeah. And your scenery is wonderful out there. I was looking, there's a lot of vineyards, it looks like, and a lot of it is. So I would have, that would be a great place to host those sessions out there. Definitely. And you're right about doing those mini days because the economies, the scale, you can just pay one rent. Mm-hmm. You could jam a bunch of people in and for shorter sessions. And the way I always looked at it too, and you mentioned earlier, it's not always in everybody's budget to pay $1,200 for one session. So they still want to do it and you can accommodate them at a lower price. And, the only trouble I had, which I just had last weekend, I had a bunch of people coming in and it's why I look so exhausted, is that I'm very bad at staying on a timeline. I'm one of these people, when I get going, I have to have someone, it's 1:30 next person, it's 1:30 next person. Do you the same way or no? How do you structure those days to make sure you stay on time and on track?
I stay pretty prompt. Once again, like just through all this crazy experience, I understand that it takes time, to, even though you've already predetermined outfits, for example, you've discussed it, she stops at Target on the way and she, oh, what do you think of these? Like everything takes time. A conversation takes time. So typically, for example, for like a half-hour shoot, if I am planning like a 25 to 30-minute photo shoot, I actually give that bride the entire hour. So we aren't starting until about 10, 15 minutes after. For me, I'd rather have that buffer time and create that experience. So we're not rush, hurry up, change. Oh, these tops goes with these panties, like switch. Oh, we forgot, we're not rushing.
Right.
And then too, what I like to do as well is I really love to create that experience. So it literally turns into a glam day, where there's snacks out, there's champagne and bubbly.
Wow, it's a whole spread.
Yes. And a lot of
I'm coming to your minis.
Yeah. Oh my gosh, they're so much fun. I wish you could. But yeah. And even too, like I've even noticed, and my mom has always taught me this too, like, it's a good party when people don't want to leave. And I noticed that a lot for my mini session days where these
people are hanging around.
They're done. Like they're just lingering. Like, and then what's cool too is that I'm bringing together these brides that maybe they don't know each other, but they leave as friends and they're discussing wedding colors and wedding vendors and ideas and honeymoon locations. And it turns into this kind of like incubator for just like wedding conversations. And I love being able to facilitate that.
Yeah, that sounds like it's a really good event. Now, what are your steps in bringing awareness about these events? How are you marketing these, or what are you doing to draw these people in?
Recently it's been a lot of like, once again, word of mouth. And, also too, now that I have been getting on board with vendors, so I'm including my professional hair and makeup team. I have been hosting at wedding venues. I'm getting a lot of help to fill in these dates from these vendors as well, because they're
sending you people.
Yes.
Oh, they're posting on there. I gotcha.
Social media is the game. So Facebook for me and Instagram have really catapulted my business. And luckily, it costs me time. I spend a lot of time on Instagram. It's kind of embarrassing, but it does bring me clients.
Yeah, and that's not bad. If you can have another venue promoting your events for you, then that's not going to cost you anything. That's a win-win in that type of a situation. That's for sure. Yep,
absolutely. And especially too when, it's not even just like a random golf course, for instance, right? I mean, this is a specific wedding venue. So of course, like their clients are brides, like we share the same clients. So anytime we can tap into that for the cross promotion is key.
Yeah, I think that's important in that business, right? Building those relationships. And then, like you said earlier about your group, people are trying to support each other. That's a good way to fill those spots. So how many women usually are you going to do on a single day when you have an event like that?
So I typically only will book, like when I open up registration, I only have like 4 to 6 windows or time slots. And the reason why I do this, I learned this just from the years of doing mini sessions, whether family shoots or boudoir, is I actually have a very limited time slot. Like I only have like maybe 4, let's just say 4 or 5 available times. So when people start booking and they start buying, for example, like just 2 people need to book and I can already start promoting, oh my gosh, halfway sold out. Right. And so then that way it's, it still covers my, my expenses that day. I still make profits. But then as we get closer and more girls are aware of it and they want to book, or maybe they're unsure once it first gets announced, then they book, and it's no problem for me to add, 1 or 2 sessions to the day. I would just tack on. I'm like, oh my gosh, since we
can add another spot,
we are adding
one more spot.
Yes.
Well, that's a good way to do it, and that's a smart way, I think, to promote those events and keep them busy. So, is that something you find yourselves doing more of now, or how often do you do these minis?
Well, this year I do them seasonally. So I like to do them about 2 to 3 times a year. And for me, that's worked out. I feel like if I do them too often, people think, oh, well, I have a couple more pounds to lose. I'll do it next time. For example, that's always just like the, woman thought process, which is,
yeah.
You understand. So I try to do them, about 2 to 3 times a year.
Yeah, that's good. I think that's a good amount for mini sessions. And I want to change gears a little bit because I want you to talk a little bit about your education part of your job. And again, browsing through your website, you have something called the Styled Pop-Up Series, and I see you're promoting a lot of education. How did that start, or what are you doing on that front as being an educator?
Well, for me, okay, so here's the thing with photography and the wedding industry. I struggled with education, or with becoming an educator, simply because everyone and their mother, like that's like the new thing to do. I feel like
teach people.
Yeah. And so for me, for the longest time, I thought, who wants to learn from me? Like I have so much to learn. I am a no, person to offer my advice or my experiences. But then recently in the last couple of years, I really started honing in on like the client experience, for example. So my goal with my education is really teaching that kind of creating the foundation for your business and mindset. To me, I'm all about wellness and mindset, with coming from not so much like the technical aspect. Like I feel like if you are a photographer, like you clearly know how to work your camera. My education portion comes with building that confidence and really just turning your passion into your profession. That's like to blanket everything, whether that comes from experiences like live workshops, live mini sessions, one-on-one consultations. Like I just want to be, in the photo industry, I laugh and I say, I just want to be your big sister to kind of give you that kick in the pants, to really chase your dreams and to equip you with the tools to actually make profits.
You're doing that for both the wedding and the boudoir part of your business. Both areas you're being a mentor there?
Yes. For me, it's just, and it's even kind of small business. So once again, here I am getting that generalist,
Right. Just teach people how to run their photography business in general. Yeah, and I think that's important to do. And there's so many people who would really, really like to learn how to do that full time. I think, they realize they fail to see how much work it actually is. But there's plenty, as you can see, there's plenty of people looking to learn about this business and jump in. And look like you do a real good job of hosting these and teaching people. So yeah, hey, if that's another revenue stream that you can have and bring people in, why not? And I was looking at your video quick again on the wedding one that you have on your website, and it looks like there's a lot of that too. Is just I saw people taking picture of the food spreads and stuff like that. So are you trying to teach people your style of doing work? And is that a big part of not just of the brides, but you said capturing the larger experience as far as these smaller details of what's going on at the wedding?
Yeah, absolutely. So it kind of encompasses all things, whether it is, capturing vendor photos. But for me, it really is just making sure that if this is your business, like if this is where your heart is, like I can help you be successful. Like I can help you. Because even today there are, there's this like word on the street with photographers where if you're not getting paid, it's not worth it. And, you need to raise your prices. And I'm once again going to be completely transparent. There are even events and shoots today that I do pro bono, like absolutely for free, but strategically, right? So that's the part that I'm excited to teach. As far as style, I teach photographers across the board, whether they do have that dark and moody look, whether they're attracted to just different styles. But at the end of the day, I think that's the part where I come in, where it's like, it's client experience. It's the foundation. It's how are you communicating with your clients? It's how are you creating that brand awareness? That's one thing I'm working on right now. I'm really focusing on, especially with all these crazy algorithms and the fact that our Instagram posts just are not getting seen anymore. How are you kind of creating that confidence to get out there and speak about your business to normal human beings, like at the grocery store or at your daughter's soccer game? How are you talking about your business in real life? And
there's a lot of marketing going on with yours. Yeah.
That's the best way to describe all those jumble words I just said. Marketing. You said it perfectly. But people don't know where to go. They don't know where to start. They don't know the first steps to take. And it's stuff that takes a while to learn. And you kind of fumble through it. And of course, someone's looking to do it a little bit easier. So I understand it. I mean, back when I started, there was no YouTube. There was nowhere really to go. You just kind of threw yourself into the fire and kind of, learned. So why not? There was no one to turn to. There was no online classes or anything then. So I think it's a great thing now that people can put together workshops, especially people who know what they're doing. I think, there's a lot of people who, like you said, educators. I don't know who they're educating. I look at some of their things and I'm like, but hopefully people do a little bit of homework and realize that. I don't understand, like when you see people, selling the secrets of boudoir at a $2.99 posing guide, like that's going to change the universe. I'd be a little suspect banking my whole career on $2.99 worth of information. But it's out there. Yeah. That's what people do. But I think what you're doing is the right way. I think it needs to be a hands-on kind of an experience, an in-person experience, because whether it's showing like posing or whether you're teaching somebody how to market with brides or bring people in, it's not something you can necessarily do through a PDF file. I think you have to meet with them and physically show them. And it's a lot about demeanor. It's a lot about how you talk to people. And you can't pick up those things by just downloading a PDF from a web store, which is fairly useless in a lot of instances. So I think for people like you're doing, I think that's a smart thing to do, because not only can you start to grow a revenue stream from that, but I also believe it probably gives you a lot of satisfaction in that you're helping other people do something that they really like to do as well. Yes, that's absolutely the core of why I have gotten into education and why I enjoy it so much. Now, is there ever, now this is one thing that I think of, because 2 weeks ago I got and I don't really get them too much anymore, but I got an email from a young guy that said, can I please come and hang around with you and watch what you do and kind of learn a little bit from you. And see, my philosophy on that has always been, I look at it this way. I imagine maybe I have a cupcake shop and I make the best cupcakes in town. And then, someone comes in and they're like, oh, I love your cupcakes. I love the frosting. And would you mind giving me the recipe? Because you see that shopping center right across the street? I was going to open my own cupcake store, like right over there. And you're like, so you're going to take my recipe and go and I have kids in school and I got a mortgage and you're going to be handing over the money to somebody else. Does something like that ever pop up into your mind, that you are doing these classes that now you could be, teaching somebody that may be sort of taking a little bit away from you? Or how do you handle that situation? That's a really great question. And I feel like, once again, this is a topic we can talk for hours about. But the first initial thing that comes to mind is, and this is kind of like the cupcake relation thing, right? Let's say, for example, because I'm totally a visual person, obviously, let's say you did give that recipe away, right? And you were like, okay, no problem. Welcome to the neighborhood. Like, this is what I do, right? And they took that recipe and they completely mimicked it. It was the exact same cupcake and they charge less. Okay. Let's say that happened. Okay. Well, in my opinion, this is why your photography needs to be on point technically, and it needs to be like, your work is going to speak for itself. But when you attach that experience, when you attach that, like that Pinterest hug, I mean, there's no other way to describe it. I know I sound like that's unique to you. It's unique to you. For example, let's say in your coffee shop, you host events there, and every time people go in there, they love the music. The music is different. Their friends go there, and, there's referrals, and, there's just like, there's this entity. Like there's this tangible thing that you cannot touch that is so incredible about your cupcake shop, or for example, like your photography business, that people just cannot duplicate. They cannot duplicate you. So by creating those experiences and leaving people wanting more and wanting to come back and tell their friends about you and your photography, that to me is what is going to create that longevity in your business. So, I mean, even look at our stuff, right? For example, photographers across the board, we're all using Pixieset, or we're using very similar programs. We are using very similar cameras, if not the same bodies, the same lenses. We are using Lightroom and Photoshop and the same exact programs. They're all cookie cutters, like they're literally cupcakes. That's the best way to describe it.
Right.
And
right.
When you have these cupcakes, what makes them different? And that to me is what I'm so excited to help educate photographers on, is creating those experiences and those touch points that make your clients, even clients that you don't even know, which is where I'm excited to be teaching more about videos and more like client intake stuff, to make them see you online and kind of turn, like you mentioned before, like that PDF into real life, and to make them feel like they know you and they trust you before they even see your work.
Yeah. So you've taught me here something today. So you're saying by teaching somebody, even the mechanic, something, they still can't be me. No. They have to develop their own thing and do their own thing.
Yes.
So it's bigger than just taking a photo, and it's bigger than just a recipe. Mm-hmm. There's a lot more to this business than just the mechanics of it. There's a lot of personality. There's a lot of style that isn't necessarily going to be duplicated by somebody else. So
absolutely,
there you go.
Absolutely.
So that's a great answer to that. And what I want you to do, we've been on almost an hour here this morning, so I want to let you get back to the rest of your day. But I want to let you know, where can people find you? Where can we find you online? Where can people find out a little bit about your classes, or where do you want everybody to go?
Yeah, absolutely. So you can find me on my website, which is www.Quianna Marie. It's Quianna Marie.com. And also on Instagram. I hang out a lot on Instagram, so I'm always in my Insta stories sharing adventures, which is also just Quianna Marie.
Online?
Yep.
And that's where they can find you.
Yeah, all over.
And that's perfect. Do it, people. Do it.
Thank you.
You're very smart. See? You're very smart.
Thank you.
I can tell by talking to you. You know what's going on.
Oh, my gosh.
Keep up the good work with that. Keep up your workshops. And just want to thank you for taking the time today to come on and talk to everybody. And it was great information. So hopefully everybody was listening today. And I appreciate it. Thanks for taking your time with me.
Thank you so much. This is really fun.